Welcome to 90 Terabytes of Alternative Gaming with your hosts, Taylor
and Q.
Nuclear launch detected.
90 Terabytes of Alternative Gaming does not represent the views of WWSP, 90 FM, or the University of Wisconsin school system. The views expressed and the information given in this broadcast can be used at the sole risk of the listener.
Listening to this broadcast is guaranteed to increase your wisdom by 5 points.
The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be cake.
Hey, listen!
Hello and welcome to 90 Terabytes of Alternative Gaming here on WWSP at Stevens Point, also known as 90 FM. Sorry. We are a video game talk show, we being me, Taylor, alongside my co-host,
Q.
Yes, and this episode, we are going to be delving a little bit into the psychology of video games with a guest who is not in the studio yet, but will be briefly, our very own Dana, a psychology major, so we're considering that being professional.
Yes. And we also have another guest with us here today.
Hello.
This is Cameron, by the way.
Yep.
You was just on the radio.
Yep,
so if
you just heard
listening,
him. And he's been on the show before.
Yes, I have.
But for those who do not know, we are a video game talk show. We discuss video games, video game culture, video game players, video game makers, video game haters, pretty much anybody that is pertinent to video games. And we do not represent a certain list of people.
A certain list, and it's actually pretty descriptive.
Yeah.
We don't represent WWSP Stevens Point, the radio station you're currently listening to. You do not represent the UW Board of Regents. The UW Stevens Point, the campus we are currently on, located in the Communications Building. And we also do not represent the state of Wisconsin, whether that is the Wisconsin State Legislature, the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, I don't know, Monsanto. There's a good list of things we don't. Actually, there's probably
John Goss.
Yeah, we don't. Yep.
There's a lot of people we do not represent.
Yep. Just ourselves. So we can get into it right off the bat. We'll get all the news out of the way at the start, and then we'll start diving into the deep psychology of video games. We'll start out pretty simply. Is the Humble Indie Bundle is going on.
Yes. Still got
6 days.
Yeah.
Actually, it just passed 5 days, 24 hours, so and it's 23 hours and 56 minutes. Something like that. So it just passed it.
So it'll be ending right before our show then?
Yeah. An hour before our show.
That seems to happen a lot.
Wait, no, 5 days, so it would end on Tuesday.
Oh, never mind.
Tuesday at 6. We had that one where it ended during our show.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And I frantically had to try to buy it on Cameron's computer.
But currently there are 157,680 purchases of the Humble Indie Bundle. The new one, which is the Humble Introversion Bundle. The company named Introversion made a whole bunch of games. They're a little indie developer, and so they decided to make their own little bundle. If you wanted to look at this, you can at humblebundle.com. You don't have to.
I do like these ones, too, where they do a specific developer like they did with Frozen Byte. It's pretty cool.
The Humble Introversion Bundle comes with 4 games from them, plus if you go over the average price, which is currently at $4.03 $4.03, you get 3 more games. Aquaria, which is also, I believe, made by them. Cran Physics Luck is not made by them. And Dungeons of Dreadmore, which is made by Gaslamp Games. You also
I've heard of that game.
You also get the source code for all the games you buy, so you can mess with them as much as you want. So if you want to learn how to code, and I'm assuming C++, because all of these games are cross-platform. That means
you can also register them on Steam, Desera, and I think Games for Windows Live is the other one. They have a bunch of different ways you can register it.
If you bought the bundle, you'd be able to use it in a lot of places. Plus, you get other 2 prototypes Introversion uses to make tech demos, a city generator and a voxel tech demo, which means you get to blow stuff up. It's pretty cool. All four of those games plus the 3 others, and then all the other stuff. The other 3 things, the source code and the prototypes you get with the 4 games you get. And those 4 games are Darwinia, Uplink, DEF CON, and Multiwinia. All of them are pretty highly regarded as very good games. They all won awards. I know all of them have won awards. Plus, the money you put down for these games
Goes to charity.
Or that company,
Yes.
whichever you decide. You can put all the money towards the two charities, which are the Electronic Frontier Foundation and Child's Play charity. And Child's Play, most people should know about by now, where they buy video games for sick kids who are stuck terminally ill in hospitals. And so they buy them video games so they have something to do while they're in their hospital bed, whether it be for cancer or any sort of disease.
Anything where they would need video games to entertain themselves.
Instead of just laying in a hospital bed for weeks on end. So
I
it's
hear they have a great atmosphere at most hospitals, though, so you can normally entertain yourself. It's nice and sterile and white.
there's curtains.
Hmm?
There's curtains.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I forgot they were a little bit more exciting than that.
Then the other charity is the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and what they do is they provide support by lawyers for whomever needs it in the indie developing world. So if you've got a video game you develop and then the big guy steals it from you, the Electronic Frontier Foundation will come and save you.
Or try to.
Or attempt to, because Microsoft has pretty good lawyers. So does Apple and Google and, EA and Activision.
People with money in general.
Mm-hmm. People who have money generally win. That's kind of the sucky part. So that's why these guys are here. They're going to try their best to save you. So if you wanted to look up this bundle and see if you wanted to get these games, currently you can get them for $4 fun dollars and 3 fun cents. You get all the games. That's humblebundle.com.
Well, technically you can get it for a penny as well.
Well, yeah,
but
you don't get those 3 games.
Yes, or a fun penny rather. But
Trying to get money
you
for
have to get the extra.
Trying to get money for charity.
We're not selling it. We're not selling it.
No.
All options are available. You're
I'm
just
fine.
probably somebody who I wouldn't be friends with if you're paying a penny for this. A fun penny.
Unless you have no money, then a penny is still something.
This is true.
Penny's still something. Fun penny. But yep, humblebundle.com. You don't have to go there if you don't want to. If you don't want to give anything to charity, go ahead. Don't do whatever you want to do. Yep. And then there's the other bundle going on right now, which is the really big bundle. This is another company that just started up doing bundles.
They do it in a little bit of a different method,
A
though.
little bit of a different.
Yeah. If you pay a certain amount over what the current price is, then you drop the overall required price. So the price isn't as cheap as you want it to be. You have to pay a certain minimum, but the minimum drops as people pay more.
Yep. So if you pay a ton more, you drop the entire price for everybody. If you pay the minimum, the price goes up.
So you martyr your money, your fake monies?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Your fake monies.
Fun monies?
Yes.
Monopoly monies?
it's real.
Whatever it is that we're not allowed to say.
Yes.
Well, I keep reminding, normally once a show, that fun money is the equal exchange to $1 American dollar.
Okay.
So,
What a coincidence, by the way. Yeah.
not like Microsoft points.
You'd think after a while they'd merge together those currencies. But...
during when we get into the psychology of video games, Microsoft points.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely a trick.
Brilliant marketing scheme. Brilliant.
Brilliant's one word.
Microsoft knows how to make money. They've known how to make money in the tech world longer than everybody else almost. IBM is the only exclusion, I think.
And I don't think they're exactly beating Microsoft.
No, but they used to be. But with this bundle, it's indieroyale.com if you wanted to look it up. You don't have to. You get 5 games. Really Big Sky, Runespell Overture, Cthulhu.
Oh yeah, Cthulhu Saves the World.
And
Which is cool, actually. It's like a old Dragon Warrior style RPG about Cthulhu instead of the normal RPG protagonist.
And then Euphoria, yes, is an ambient game about space exploration and conquest.
Yep.
So I might be getting that bundle. I don't know.
Ambient games are pretty cool too. It's very much an indie game kind of realm, but I know Osmos came with one of the old indie bundles, and it's really fun. It's not a inherently complicated game. But it's just they make the atmosphere so proper that it is something that you could play for an hour and just walk out of it just feeling relaxed, which is really cool about a game. That's totally the opposite of what you usually get.
And there are 3 days left on this one, and unfortunately for this one, unfortunately, it's a choice upon your own.
Yeah, it's all a matter of perspective.
All the money goes to the developers for these games, equally depending on what games they have on there. So yeah. 25,709 sold out of this bundle, and this is indieroyale.com if you wanted to look it up.
I think they have a couple more bundles coming up too. It's at the bottom of the page. They show
have a new bundle every
up-and-coming
2
ones.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, moving on to more little bits of news. Not too many video games came out recently.
Yeah, no. And if they did, they'd probably still be overshadowed, honestly.
Yeah.
Because if you're not playing Uncharted, Skyrim, or Modern Warfare 3, I mean, there's not a whole lot.
Yeah, there's not much going on in the whole tech world. I can't even really think of any conferences coming up.
Everyone's bracing for Christmas.
Yeah, Skyrim is just got the patch. Patch 1.2 fixed a bunch of bugs. The beta for Counter-Strike Global Offensive started today, which is big.
Closed beta, though.
Closed beta, but it's a beta.
Yeah, no.
I mean, they're finally showing the game to us after what? Counter-Strike. No, the Source came out.
Counter-Strike came out in 98 or 99.
Yeah, the Source came out in like 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a while. It's been almost 10 years. So it's pretty big.
Well, they didn't need to make a new one, though, because it was just recently that Counter-Strike finally started losing players.
Well,
that community
Team
kept
Fortress,
going strong forever.
Team Fortress stole them all. That's my opinion. I don't know if that's
Before
true or not.
TF2 went free to play, the community had already declined pretty hard in 1.6 at least. I never really played much of Source, though.
Mm-hmm. And then the Star Wars The Old Republic beta kicked off full strength this last weekend. They admitted pretty much darn near everybody. So lots of people were playing. The servers were all packed. Some of them actually had wait times of over a day to log in.
Holy cow.
So they were definitely investing a lot of money and people into it. I had quite a few friends playing it. I decided not to play it due to the fact that I didn't want to wait a couple hours to even play the game. So Skyrim was right there. I already paid for it. So hey.
I can play Skyrim right now.
Yes, instead of waiting a day. But they all played it and they said they loved it. I loved it. It's a really fun game. We'll obviously have a review of it when it comes out. But it's obviously going to be an MMO. And we're going to be talking about why these games succeeded so drastically here in a few minutes. I mean,
yeah, that's going to come up a lot
our
in
other
the
guests
psychological conversation.
Like to introduce yourself into
Dana
the
has
microphone.
entered the room.
I didn't want to make noise. Hello.
Hello. Introduce yourself and how are you our resident smart person.
I'm not.
Well, you're more psychology than both of us. I would assume put together.
I'm Dana. I'm the News and Public Affairs Director here at 90 FM, and I am also a psychology major. And I like to. This wasn't from a class. The part that I'm going to talk about today, it's from a book that my older brother got me for Christmas a year ago, called
What a
Connected.
nice guy.
I know, called Connected by Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler. And last week, when you guys were talking about Skyrim, it reminded me of this book because you were saying how you both acted differently in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Q was saying, you're like, I just stared at a mountain. I'm like, that's what Q would do in real life. You would just stare at a mountain for like an hour if you were in front of one.
I don't want to really ruin anything, but the one big battle, did you pick a side?
Oh, in the Civil War?
Yeah.
I just picked a side because the main quest made me do it, but
Okay.
I haven't done the quest line.
You haven't done the quest line. When you start attacking cities...
I've heard it's pretty crazy. I bet my computer's going to lag, honestly.
I walked into the city, and I was in front of the line of troops just murdering each other. And I just saw, no, don't kill me, and people running around. I'm like, huh. I didn't fire an arrow the entire time.
You just watched it?
You watched it?
Yeah, I didn't want to kill anybody.
I guess.
And it was built into me because this city, I had done every quest, and there were no quests left in the city. So I knew every single person in the city. And I just didn't want to kill anybody.
Which city?
I'm not going to ruin it.
Well, it already said it's in the achievements, dude. If you look at the achievements, you already know the cities that you can fight over.
It was Whiterun.
It was Whiterun? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're playing the game right now, I'm sorry.
Someone's just doing that quest. Ah, dang it!
But no, it was very cool. My computer didn't lag, though. I was quite happy with my computer. It did crash after it, though, but a good thing I quick saved.
Yeah, no, I did one where there was like a prison breakout, and all the guards came after all the prisoners, and my computer just started going slideshow, and I was like, and I'm out, and just ran out of the city before my computer crashed.
But yeah, so I mean, you've got that that very big thing, because I know we had talked with one of our guests when we had reviewed the game, and he was murdering everybody.
Yeah, no, I
He's
mean,
murdering everybody.
I know people whose first quest line was Dark Brotherhood, and I mean, they've just been running around and being the person who can kill whatever they want to, which, I mean, is something that some people like in these games. They like being able to just be the most powerful thing that the world has ever seen.
Yeah, one of our guests, Parker, that's what he did.
Yeah.
Is he just went around murdering everybody. And then
suddenly he was like, wow, there's no one here anymore.
This research is going to make him look really bad then. Don't use names on air.
I don't know. He's one of the people that, allowed us to do that. I mean, If you say we can say your name, we're gonna say it. You can tell you redacted from us.
We're gonna say your parents'
We'll
names.
just start censoring it.
Who raised this boy?
Yeah. But I mean, where would you like to start? I mean, we could start with that very fact of having. There's two very big differences. Is you have the opportunity to kill someone, and then the game grows on who that character is, and then so you actually care about the character.
Yeah, I mean, you can either work to like build things up in the game. You can do that, or you can destroy everything. Which, I guess, apparently the decision you make supposedly has some kind of psychological impact or some psychological reflection.
It obviously has to deal.
Oh, how long have you been playing WoW, Q?
I haven't played WoW in a year.
Okay, but what year did you start?
I started 2004 is when it came out.
Okay, so you know about the thing that happened in 2005. I might be mispronouncing the name, and I'm sorry if I am, but WoW released something called Hakar. It's talking about?
Yeah, this was a long time ago.
Yeah, in 2005, and I was reading about it in here, and it had a disease called corrupted blood, and it just spread like a crazy epidemic.
I did hear about this.
Yeah, they used this not just for psychology, but they also use it to
in a medical journal.
Yeah.
And that's when. Sorry, should we talk about it a little bit more? What happened then?
If you got it written down, I mean,
I remember
pretty vividly how it happened.
Yeah, no. From what I understand, it was basically like a plague in game, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what happened is you fought a boss, and then the boss cast a spell on you, and if you didn't kill him, and then you went home, back to any home city, after a set period of time, you exploded, and the disease spread to everyone around you. And so what people would do is they'd purposely get this disease
to spread it to their enemies.
Yeah, and then they would go or spread it to their allies, and they just run through their home cities where there's no enemies, everybody's friendly, and just explode. Just killing everybody. There's videos of people just running into the auction houses and just exploding.
And then everybody else in turn catches the disease, and yes, it propagates.
And it propagated, and I know there was a time when you would not even enter any of the big cities because you knew you'd die, and there was no chance. So I mean, it goes to a deeper that deep of a fact. I mean, go on what it says.
Oh, sorry. Well, after they did that, they started realizing just how people acted exactly how they would in real life. There's some people who acted
altruistically.
Yes, like that. And they tried to help others, and they ended up dying as a result. And other people just like ran, and they died too. And then there were some people who went to the site of it to try to check out what was going on, and they ended up dying. And WoW just ended.
So there's a lot of ways to die, is what I'm understanding from
that.
But
they started noticing that people acted the same exact ways that they would in a normal epidemic. So it got published in a medical journal called Lancet Infectious Disease, and it made a whole bunch of psychologists start looking into doing research through video games. And so are you guys familiar with milligrams obedience research? Most people are.
Obedience research?
Yeah. Where should we talk about it a little bit? Or?
If there's a brief overview you think you can do, I mean.
Yeah, milligrams obedience research was important because it really made a lot of psychologists look at what type of research is ethical and what type isn't. A lot of people weren't happy with the results, and it affected them negatively afterwards. And it proved just how we listen to anyone who's supposed to be a superior to us, even if it involves hurting someone else. People still listen.
Yeah.
Now, that was the one that revolved around pushing the button that would administer,
them.
It was increasingly strong shocks to another person. And you were eventually, you believed that they died, right? You were eventually believed that you were shocking them to death.
You eventually believed that you killed them.
Was it death?
Yeah.
I thought that, it was increasingly strong shocks until you were told essentially that this person had died from the shock.
It affected them a lot. I mean, it was good research because it made us realize just how much we listen to anyone who's above us.
I was a Yale University psychologist. His name was Stanley Milgram. I want to attribute it to him. He did the research. But yeah, it was the ability to obey an authority figure. I mean, no matter who it was. So if you assumed the guy was a doctor, you did what he told you to do.
Well, yeah, I would assume it was less ability and more compulsion, though.
Yeah,
I mean, we kind of do what
and
we're
they had actually tested it during the big study. I don't know where it is on here, but I know what they had done is they had never told the person they were testing on that the person actually had a doctorate.
There was no debriefing.
There was like, hey, come in here, press this button. And he was wearing a lab coat, so the person automatically assumed in their mind, this guy needs my help. And so they never actually said this guy was a doctor. They never said he was an actual authority figure, just the essence of an authority figure. which goes right to what Skyrim did with all this stuff. I mean, the essence of an authority figure to follow him with a lot of... They build it into a lot of the tinier subjects who seem to follow whomever their leader is, especially... I know in Oblivion they did this, but they did it with really bad voice acting. But all the people, follow the Emperor.
Not all of them.
Well,
There's an entire rebellion.
Exactly, but I'm saying then the rest of them followed this guy. And so that's why this game builds along that, and when you go fight through these cities, you see that, and it's really cool. But it's no other people playing it. And I know in World of Warcraft they had that, and that's two huge things, the Alliance and the Horde.
Which apparently people get way more attached to than I would ever figure. Like, people write songs about being in the Horde as opposed to the Alliance, and people, openly hate people who are in the other faction.
No,
which
and I've actually
I don't understand
I've had
still.
certain things at times in my life where, back when it was deep in which side you were, and it still is. I don't know how it still is. But talking to people who are Horde, we didn't like each other.
I try the merit of character, as crazy as that may sound.
But the merit of character is directly aligned to which side you were on.
Not really.
In the terms of what we were conditioned to do.
Yes.
The game conditioned us to hate the other side by the very fact that if you didn't kill them, they would kill you, and then you'd have to run back. And that wasted your time. So it was automatically conditioned into you. You killed this guy, or you didn't kill this guy, or you've got to run back to your body and waste 20 minutes.
Unless you're playing on a PvE server.
No. There's still...
I thought there
were good portions of areas that you could still kill people in all PvE servers. Player versus environment, player versus player, PvP.
Yeah.
Versus player.
No, I knew what the terms were. I figured that PvE
audience,
meant there were none.
Our audience may not know that. Or guests may not know that. I'm assuming they didn't know that.
We're getting a lot of shaking heads, yeah.
How did you know?
But, I mean...
Expert in body language, actually. I've learned that the head shake is
They were able to use this to start doing research. Like, they couldn't redo Milligram's research, so they redid it with having a fake person on the other side, and they told them it was just an avatar, but people still acted almost identical to the original Milligram studies. So after they realized they could do that, they started doing a whole bunch of other research, and these are the ones that I think are interesting. They would give people a more attractive avatar than what they actually are, and people would treat them exactly how they would treat a more attractive person in real life. And so they would stand about 3 feet away from an attractive avatar and about 6 feet away from a homely looking one. And, you go into it knowing it's not real, but you still act like that. That's called by the way, side note, Proteus effect.
Proteus?
No, that is completely and utterly true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's how people act inside of video games in general.
And another fun one, I don't know if you ever heard of, it always reminds me of this one 90s game show that I used to play called Friend or Foe, but they give you amount of money. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Best show ever. YouTube it. Oh my God, hilarious. But anyway, they give you like an amount of money, and then you have to decide how to split it with the other person. And if you were assigned as a taller avatar, then you were more likely to take money from the other person.
So even if your avatar has like a physical advantage,
height,
then you still act the same way.
Then you act like a bully. Isn't that
Darn
funny?
Night Elves.
Yeah.
Night Elves just so tall, and gnomes are just like this. No.
And another interesting thing about that is a lot of the research that they did for this carried out into the real world. So someone who was assigned a more attractive avatar acted more confident after that, and they felt that more people were interested in them because they acted more interested in them in the game. So that's kind of cool to know if you ever want a confidence boost.
Yeah,
give
no,
yourself a really attractive character. People will treat you more attractive. If you're ever getting ready for a big date,
So I need to spend more time in character builders.
This may also apply to the idea. I was going to try to segue into it because I did a bit of research on this psychology of rewards within games. Now, that very fact right there was one of the major reasons why the bigger guilds in World of Warcraft did the harder stuff, so they looked better. Just in-game. That's all. The rewards of doing something in-game only gave you that. You just got better-looking armor.
Oh, really?
So that was the major reason I know I played so much, was to get that stuff. So you essentially, it wasn't just the bragging rights. It looks as though you actually got the physical satisfaction out of it. Or mental satisfaction.
Satisfaction
is in general. But the actual reward didn't actually matter as much as the actual act of trying to get the reward. And I know you had just done the Skinner box.
I'll be talking about that right after. Do you want to do the break before we get into that? Because that's going to be a longer-ish topic. I don't think I can cram it into 3 minutes.
No, I don't think we can cram it into 3 minutes. We can do our awesome thing where we give away a prize.
Yes. The basic gist of this, if you're not used to the giveaway process, is that we're going to be playing a song from a popular video game. We usually tell you at least what system it was on, and then depending
But not
on
today.
Oh no, we will.
You get nothing today.
You get nothing.
No music.
But the general principle is you call and you say what game it's from, and depending on how difficult of a song we've picked, it can sometimes also require you to say where in the game it's from. And this week we are going to be asking for both the game and where it's from in the game. If you only know the game, give a call anyways. If you're the only person who gets it, then we'll probably give it to you anyways. But the only hint we're giving is that this was for the N64, and you've probably heard of it. There's a very strong chance you've heard of it.
Have I heard of it?
Yeah.
I bet you have, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you've actually seen me play it, so I'm just saying.
I'm pretty certain that you've had someone in your entire life you watched
Yeah.
play this game.
Okay.
All right.
But what you do is you give us a call at 715-346-2696.
When you
And-
think you know.
Yes, if you think you know it, I'll pick up the phone and you can talk to me. And if you get it right, you get to talk to Taylor.
Yeah, you have to
You
go
get
through
it?
the extra layer to get to talk to me, though.
If
If you get it wrong, you have to talk to me.
There's no option.
You have to, and I'm going to ask you a ton of questions, and they're going to be really personal. So
that is the plan today. So 715-346-2696. You get to win a $10 $10 gift
I
certificate.
still don't know where the lines are on that.
To the Tech Lounge located right here in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. We've had many winners. You can only win once a month, so if you've won, we know who you are.
Yeah.
You set of people, we know who you are. So here is the song. It is fantastic. It's one of my favorite songs from the game. I got it pretty quickly. When you played it for me.
Well,
yesterday.
if you know it, it'll be easy to recognize.
So here it is. Give a call at 715-346-2696 with your guesses.
Or your guess if you only have one.
Yes.
And then we can avoid the pluralization and make it easier to say.
So here is the song here on at 90 FM, your only alternative.
For gaming.
"90 Terabytes of Alternative Gaming" is brought to you by Gaming Generations in Stevens Point, located at 135 Division Street. Phone number 715-254-9990.
Gaming Generations features new releases and a wide selection of used games. They also have the classics you grew up with and the know-how to get your console up and running again.
That's Gaming Generations in Stevens Point, your source for gaming.
90 terabytes of alternative gaming is brought to you by
The Tech Lounge, offering the world's best next-generation and retro game systems, along with great-tasting Fairtrades coffee, espresso, jet smoothies, and energy drinks. Open Tuesday through Saturday, noon to midnight, Sunday, 2 p.m. till 10, and closed on Monday.
Located at 1036 Main Street in downtown Stevens Point.
Visit them at the web at www.techloungesp.com. The Tech Lounge, where the future is yesterday.
It's a modern age arcade.
90 terabytes of alternative gaming does not represent the views of WWSP, 90 FM, or the University of Wisconsin school system. The views expressed and the information given in this broadcast can be used at the sole risk of the listener.
I mean, let's face it, the opinion of these two guys is about as pristine as Wikipedia. After all, their source is the internet. And now, back to the show. Fight.
Welcome back to 90 terabytes of alternative gaming here on 90 FM, your only alternative. We just got out of the little intermission thing where we do our giveaway. The name of the song was either Lon Lon Ranch or Epona's song. Either way, they were both true.
From the Ocarina of Time.
Yes, and
Zelda.
the winner was one Chris, someone I actually know personally, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Favoritism.
Yeah, there was like seven callers, but Chris got in first.
Yep,
Chris got
speed
in
fingers.
first. I also got a few guesses over Facebook. How many times do I have to tell you the phone number?
Well, to be fair, the first time we did this, we shot ourselves in the foot by saying, yeah, you can also do it on Facebook, and then we realized that a few seconds ago isn't a very precise way to measure whether or not they got in before the caller. So we decided that probably should be undone.
Yeah.
So now it's just phone calls. But, I mean, if people are getting frustrated with how many lines there are, we could probably start doing our cell phones, too, if it's really that much of a pain. But
you guys should definitely give away your personal cell phone number.
Yeah, no, and then I'll give my address away and my social security number and probably my blood
your
type.
Class schedule.
Yeah.
Your biggest fear.
Oh, then they can follow me everywhere.
Could you do it like over Facebook chat? Like, does that work with the
No.
page or no?
No.
I don't know anything about anything. So.
No, I don't think you can chat with a group.
Yeah,
But
I don't think you can. You'd have to actually make like an open group, one of those things. I'm not doing that.
yeah. Well, we are currently in the midst of a psychology of video games special. We're doing specials end to end, I guess, because last one was our favorite video games. But we cut right before talking about something called Skinner box techniques. And if any of you ever heard of the it was a series that used to be on the Escapist called Extra Credits, and they talked about this. So if you heard it, it's very interesting actually. Then it'll sound a little bit familiar, but if you haven't, they're now on Penny Arcade, and they're really cool, actually. It's very interesting, and it's basically like lectures. They're very interesting. But the general idea behind a Skinner box revolves around a old psychologist whose last name was Skinner, whose first name I don't remember. But the basic gist of the experiment was he would put a pigeon into a box, and inside this box there was a single button. And
B.F. Skinner.
Huh?
B.F. Skinner.
B.F.
This
Skinner?
is bothering me now. What was it? This is so basic.
I feel less bad for not remembering it now. But the idea of the actual experiment was that the pigeon was in the box and there was a button on one surface of the box. And when the pigeon pecked the button, he would receive food. And so he was conditioned to actually make the action of pecking the button. And as he kind of explored this whole phenomena a little bit further, he found out that it was actually better if, rather than hitting the button and giving it once every time, it was actually better to do it once, and a random number of hits later, he would receive food. Or once every certain amount of time, if he hits the button, he'll receive food, and it would make them more compelled to do this action. And that's kind of become the core of a lot of video games. It's incredibly common in things like RPGs. RPGs, the entire leveling system is what's called a Skinner box technique, because all it is you have to keep doing this thing for nothing but the promise of the reward in the future, which is similar to what you were talking about where you like the rewards in Warcraft. But what keeps you actually playing is not the fun of the game. It's the fact that if you keep playing, you get something.
You get the anticipation of the reward.
Yes, and even outside of actual RPGs, even leveling in Call of Duty. I mean, I'll hear people say things like, oh, I need to hit this next level. I hate the gun that I'm going to get for this next level, but I need to get to the one after that. So people will just play right through, even if they don't want what they're getting at this level, because they know somewhere down the line,
It's not a first-person
they keep
shooter
playing, they'll
anymore.
get something.
It's not a first-person shooter anymore. It's an RPG.
Well, everything's got RPG elements in it because they sell.
Yeah.
Because these Skinner box things,
It keeps money.
Yeah, well, once you're being conditioned to do this, you become compelled almost to a certain point, and it's something that's very strong in some games. Things like, we talked about this before, Farmville. That is the entirety of Farmville. All Farmville is basically do this so in the future you can get some meaningless reward.
And then you can tell your friends.
Yep. And I mean, it's something incredibly common in pretty much all games, and I agree with the general gist of what Extra Credits talked about in this, which is that it's something that you should really be avoiding in games, and it's used as a substitution for what the real goal of games is, which is engagement and immersion.
And that's a very good point, because there's a very deep psychology of immersion in the first place. I mean, there's so many different channels of sensory information. You get everything. So immersion simply is the basic idea that you have sound, you have visual, and in some places, obviously, feeling and etc.
Yeah.
But
no smell yet, which is so disappointing.
There's games that have had smell, but
really,
I doubt they worked. I doubt they worked.
Just put like a little like oxygen mask over your face, and it gives a smell whenever you're by
for
something.
Movies, like way back in the day, they tried the smell thing too, and they just like
smell-o-vision.
Yeah, there was like little canisters of smell that would just like spray out during like certain parts of the movie and stuff. So
that must have been
imagine
awesome.
having to buy like canisters to go with your game though. That'd be a pain.
That would be a little bit on.
Yeah, immersion basically simply starts with the idea that interactivity with everything in the game world you can do. Games like Skyrim, games like Red Dead Redemption, Fallout, etc., have that almost completely built in.
Yeah, no, that is exactly what those style games thrive on. I mean, when you play Skyrim, you play mostly because you are in the coolest, you're in a world that's almost cooler than the place you were at in reality. I mean, it's just an entire setting that has been made perfectly.
It's definitely beautiful, and more beautiful than my basement.
That's very true.
I mean, that's the point, is you have this completeness of sensory information, where you've got not just the events that are happening around your character, but you have the events that are happening in the entire world. So you get pulled in, and that's one thing that Skyrim did amazingly, was you start out with just a dude, and you have no idea what the background, and the background grows. From there, you have a choice to whichever side of the background you want. You can kill everybody if you want to, as we've mentioned before. But you allow this world to, immerse you into it by growing around you. And I mean, the second you figure out that mountain right there next to you can actually climb up to, you get, I don't know, the sense of adventure, the feelings that arise from, or anxiety that arises, which can totally happen a lot of times too.
If you don't like spiders, it'll arise a lot in that game.
Because there were people that were actually talking and actually said their levels of agoraphobia and etc. And there were people who were level 2s talking about their agoraphobia and stated they couldn't play. Like, the spiders were just so real. And the second
that's arachnophobia, by the way. Agoraphobia is like fear of the outside.
Oh, that one too. There were both of them.
Okay.
Yeah, agoraphobia because the world was so big. That was another one.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Arachnophobia, agoraphobia. I was already jumping to the next part of the statement. Sorry.
But people made mods actually, so that you changed the spiders in the game to dancing bears because they're less scary, I guess.
Dancing bears.
I bet there's an actual disorder for fear of dancing bears, though.
I bet there is, but I bet there are way fewer of them than arachnophobics. At least I like to think so. I'm making that as entirely an educated guess.
I don't know. What if you're out on the street and the bear just comes dancing at you, though?
I would say that was a fear of bears rather than dancing bears.
Oh, but have you ever seen a dancing bear?
Have I? No.
I didn't know you're afraid of them.
I don't.
Could be terrifying.
What portion of Americans have actually seen a dancing bear?
Well, it used to be part of all the circuses before animal rights activists actually cared the torture we put them through.
What percent of Americans?
Most old people, then, I would say. Old people who
They'd
got
have
to go.
Be really old, though, like Barnum and Bailey's circus old, I mean.
I think my grandma's been to those. We are so off topic at this point.
Right. But you have the theory of spatial presence, which brings in the question. I know they do this really well. They do this really well in a lot of games. You're talking to one person in the game, and they're at the center of the screen. And all these other things are happening around your character. At that time, while you're staring, talking at one specific person, everything else that's happening in the world is inconsequential to your conscious, but not your subconscious. You notice all these events that are happening around your character. And in Skyrim, it's very, very much a lot of things happening.
Well, I mean, there's like bugs crawling around in stumps. I mean, there's tons of things going around in the background.
So you have this full level of immersion. And with a full level of immersion, you have a full level of the ability that the game has control over all your feelings.
Well, I think also, I think what it is to the main extent is that by having all of these actions occur, more of your focus is drawn into the game world and can't be spent on things like looking at that speck of dirt on your monitor or, the weird brand name that your computer has or something just in the general vicinity that could distract you, because there's so many things going on that you have to use all of your focus just on the game itself, which would then cause you to be more immersed.
And obviously, it has to deal with the player's willingness to be immersed, and that's another big fact is players that don't want to be immersed in a game most likely are not going to play the game.
And I would wonder why they would have bought the game in the first place.
Yeah, that's also the fact there too. But you've got the willingness to be immersed, and then obviously within studies you have everybody going to be immersed or not be immersed, and they're not buying anything to study. But you've got people who obviously don't want to be immersed. They're not going to have the feelings that are going to be attempted to be connected to things that are happening. I know there are a few games. I don't know if I've actually fully cried in a video game. Have you?
Have I ever cried from a video game? When I was about 6 and I couldn't beat the Lion King level where you have to jump off all the ostriches, I think I cried out of frustration.
Yeah, there are
frustrations definitely brought me to tears on things, but
never like a raw
emotional.
Yeah. I was kind of bummed when Ares died in Final Fantasy VII. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't played it.
Yeah, but I mean, there are plenty of games that attempt to make the pull on your heartstrings to make you cry. I know there are plenty of games that try really, really hard. You've obviously got games like Grand Theft Auto and et cetera, where the story is so deep and grown into, and then you have other games that like World of Warcraft that attempt to have this storyline.
I would actually say that the closest in modern gaming I've gotten to a game that actually succeeds in an emotional channel would actually have been Heavy Rain, which was made entirely around that. Heavy Rain was nothing but characters. Yeah. There was no fighting. There was none of that. It was nothing but character development, and they did really well about that.
Yeah, they did. That was a very deep game, and I know a lot of people praised it for that. Based on the fact is you become this character. Mm-hmm. You become this character, and all these things that are happening around you are truly happening to the character, and so your choices, whether or not may destroy this character's life.
That was a game where characters could also die and never come back. Like if a character died, they were out of the story now. You worked with who we had left.
That adds to the completeness of the sensory information in the immersion idea.
Yeah, well, you'll care about something more if you know that when it falls off a cliff face and dies, it doesn't just pop back up at the top of the cliff. It's someone falling off a cliff and that character's gone forever now.
Which is why it amazes me to the amount of people that run through Skyrim killing everybody. They don't come back.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've killed a single innocent person yet.
Yeah, I haven't. I think my murders is maybe one because I had to do the one quest where I had to murder somebody.
I think I get a lot of accidental assaults because I use fireballs and people run into my enemies.
I've started people on fire just because.
No, I've lit a lot of guards on fire that way, and apparently they don't like that.
Yeah, I would assume they don't like that. But I mean, it grows and grows to the idea of this immersion, that they figure this out, and so they attempt to take your money, especially with the things like Farmville, where they immerse you in this world. You get this RPG elements.
But I would argue that with Farmville, it's less of a case of immersion, though. I would argue that that's entirely compulsion.
It's the first level of immersion.
I don't know. I was pretty immersed in the world of fish during Fishville.
Really though?
Yeah.
Would you call it immersion? Would you say that you actually cared about any of the exactly?
I'm messing with you guys.
I would say that it reflects back to Skinner Rock stuff. All it is you were compelled to do this for the idea of the reward rather than actually being immersed in.
Yeah, I just wanted better fish. That's all I was working towards.
You didn't care about the fish you had.
But the better fish. To get the better.
You probably
fish,
didn't care about those either. Once you got the best fish, you probably stopped.
I stopped out of boredom.
Yeah, but there are plenty of people who didn't.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people who did not stop out of boredom because they weren't bored at all. They were fully immersed in what they were doing.
But I still would argue it's not immersion because there's no end game in any of these. And none of these, once you've gotten everything perfect, is there anything to do anymore because all it is the process of upgrading. And
paying
that's not
money.
I know, but that's not immersion. That's not what it is. Because when someone's playing Farmville, they don't care about anything in Farmville. There's nothing in Farmville that will elicit an emotional response from them except for perhaps anger when they accidentally delete something. We got a hand raised.
I really cared about Farmville when I had swine flu and was on a whole bunch of medication and did nothing other than play Farmville.
Okay, so
those who are medicated.
I gotta harvest
the healthy
my
American mind. But I don't know. I would still personally argue that it's not immersion as much as compulsion in that case. That's more just somebody striving to have the best of something rather than actually caring about any of what they get.
And what you were talking about before, the Skinner.
But Skinnerbox, it's conditioning to an action, but that leads to compulsion, wouldn't you say? I mean, once you are sitting there pushing this button, praying to Jesus that one of these is going to be the time that it makes a goldfish pop out or something, then I would argue you're being compelled to do this rather than regularly driven.
Nod's head.
Nod's head.
Yes.
We have to. Yeah, we're gonna need to get like cue cards for body language that we can just read off.
So I mean, you start diving into the idea of Farmville, because Farmville was not populated by gamers. It was populated by first generation gamers who were older women in their 40s and up.
I wouldn't say it was only those though. It was pretty much the entirety of what the casual gaming market is. It was just people who don't play games who then hear about this through a friend and go, "Oh, that sounds interesting," and trying it. I mean, I knew a lot of I know Mason, who just walked in here, played the heck out of that game, and then we have you played it too.
What game?
Farmville.
Oh fuck. Yeah.
Whoa! All right, so let's move along from that.
Yes,
quickly.
Mason leaves the studio.
Yeah.
Talking about ducks again.
Yes. Yes.
All these ducks just flying in and out of the studio.
You used to work in Dells. How are the ducks? No.
Different type of duck.
No.
All right, but actually, the extra credits video talks exactly about what we were kind of discussing about the difference between these Skinnerbox things and compulsion. And I think the main point at which you see that distinction happening is people will play games that they no longer actually are having fun when they're playing. They'll play games solely for the reward after a while. I would say that was very characteristic of certain WoW players. And whenever I try to make myself play like Call of Duty, that's all I can play for. All I can play for is going, oh, maybe I'll get something that's so good that I won't die all the time.
Reminds me of Peep Show, where it's a British show. It's really funny. He's like sitting there. He's like, "Am I even enjoying this anymore?" As he's trying to play, and now I have to learn the clarinet. Anyway, it's funny. But what I just said isn't because
wow. Yes. Anyways, I don't know. I fully believe that immersion doesn't have to just be with all senses.
Yeah, it's not necessary, but that's not any of your senses. None of your senses are pure raw drive. And it's not, I wouldn't even say it's an emotion. All it is you being compelled to perform this action because of what that action will yield. The action itself gives you no pleasure. The only thing that you're enjoying is the end result, which a game isn't an end result. A game is an action. A game is the process by which you reach these end goals. And Skyrim, well, you see a little bit of, because I'm using Skyrim just as an example of immersion, but while you see some slight Skinnerbox things, like, your leveling system, it's not the focus of the game. The focus of the game are these, grand epic fights and these characters who you can help or harm, and you actually become invested in them in a world that's just, awe-inspiring, rather than actually being about, oh, I got, the best armor in the world, because if you play it for nothing but that, you're essentially missing the actual game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that point there is you're always trying to get the best armor. You always are. If you're playing World of Warcraft and you're at the end and you're the highest level, you're always going to be doing that. It's not going to stop. You're not ever going to stop because the developers
keep making better
stuff. They keep making better armor. And I know that was a big reason that I quit, because it was the same exact thing every single patch. And I know World of Warcraft's patch 4.3 just came out. 4.3, so it's the fourth, game they've given us. And then I don't know how many patches from then on, like 12 for each game.
A lot.
More for the original one. So, I mean, you've got this, you do this over and over and over again. And I mean, it pulls together what your level of attention is. Now, attention is one of the biggest things in game development. Keeping a player's attention is number one. If you can't do that, you've failed at making a game. It's regardless to what game you're making. If you can't keep a player's attention, you can't make a profit off them, especially for games like Farmville.
Well, even if you're not looking for a profit, if you can't get their attention, you can't get a message across. Even.
Exactly.
That is the first stage of anything. Anytime you're trying to communicate, or just anytime you're trying to do anything at all, you need whatever the target's is their attention. You need the attention in order to get to any other stage. But
no, I'm just mentioning that, trying to see if we can get something else out of it. I mean, we need the tension is the most important thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's usually succeeded in games because if you're playing the game, you already have given it your attention because you've put in the game, you've started the game, you've hit the start button, and you've gotten into the game itself. You're already exhibiting your attention. But I mean, I would say that it's a lot more characterized in arcade games because arcade games were incredibly flashy. Like, if you watched a DDR machine, you could see it from across the freaking mall because there's strobes, there were like actual lights on the machine itself, and it was purely designed to get someone's attention and go, oh, I wonder what that is, and then play it. But that's, I would say, different than what gaming is nowadays because arcades don't really exist.
Yeah. I don't know. Arcades are done. I mean, as what they were.
Yeah.
I mean,
actually, DDR is an interesting one in terms of psychology too, though, because I'm basically leeching off you extra credits, by the way. Thank you. But they discussed this exact thing. But in terms of they had drum games that were similar to DDR, where you're watching a scroll of symbols that are translated into a physical command, and you learn how to receive these prompts and then do the action that you're supposed to in time with it. And by doing this properly and making a effective communication method and then slowly speeding it up, somebody can do that to a degree that they would never be able to if they were actually trying without this like external stimulus. Like, people can play like Rock Band drums way better than they would ever be able to play a regular set of drums because they have this, like, it's turned into a code that they're translating instead. And because of that, you can do things. You can even do things faster. You can move your hands in speeds that you would never be able to. And I don't know where that would fall, I guess, into psychology itself. But it's something that I would say is pretty unique to video games.
Altering of motor skills, I'd say, is pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's not even just the motor skills, though. It's the fact that when you're making these actions, you're not paying attention to what you're doing anymore. All you're doing is you are making the motion, and that's it.
Well, you got your...
Like, I can, like, when I would play DDR, I could literally, like, close my eyes for a second or so. And, like, all I'm doing is just taking that screen and turning it into action. And I'm not thinking about what those actions are. I mean, that's what all of those games are for the most part.
And you completely lose, like, track of time when you're completely immersed in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess you could call that immersion. I guess we would need a definition of exactly what the line is of immersion. What is the exact definition of immersion within something?
There is an exact word and definition for it, and I cannot remember it.
Oh, good. This is what happens when you let college students do this.
Whoa.
Wikipedia
I haven't
that.
taken a psych class in like a year.
I haven't either.
I haven't either.
I took a lot of them.
But here we are, discussing psychology.
Immersion, as the definition, is the instruction based on extensive exposure to surroundings or conditions that are native or pertinent to an object of study.
Huh.
So, I guess my argument, actually, of compulsion versus immersion might be different. Or might not be non-existent, really.
An extensive exposure to conditions.
Yeah.
So, Farmville, persistent.
Yeah, it's persistent conditioning, basically, is all that Farmville was.
Yeah. I mean, it still fit under the term immersion as a whole.
Yeah. So my argument is null and void on that particular front, then.
Yeah, and there's lots of other definitions on here that don't apply. Absorbing involvement. I don't know. But, yep, that was our talk about...
Psychology.
The psychology of video games. This is 90 terabytes of alternative gaming. We talk about video games, everything video games. So this time we decided to have a more laid-back talk about the psychology of video games.
Rather than the current events side of it.
By the way, I think a philosophy of video games would be interesting for another show.
That would be. Because there's also an interesting debate of the difference, like why there is such strong difference between Western and Eastern games. Because you can identify those games when you see them. Like, if you look at a game, you can usually be like, oh, yeah, that's probably Japanese. If you've played a lot of games. So that I think that actually could probably fill most of an episode.
Yeah, I probably would. I mean, I come as a religious studies minor, so I mean, even there, I mean, to pull a few things because I know there's massive differences as you mentioned with every country that makes video games. There's big differences.
Well, everything down to how the characters inside these games use their weapons and stuff like that is actually something that people can trace into something that actually has to do with the culture that's creating the games.
You guys got Professor Wallagore as a guest.
We could ask him.
If we got a professor on, that would be awesome for that.
Yes, that would. There are probably a couple professors. I know Trudy Miller. I'm one of the doctors of.
Yeah, I could talk to a couple of the philosophy professors. That'd be actually a very interesting episode.
We'll do that. Thank you for listening to 90 Terabytes of Alternative Gaming here on 90 FM.
Your only alternative for gaming. It is weird to say the entire phrase.
But if you really loved our show, anything we said, you can obviously like us at 90 Terabytes of Alternative Gaming, which is facebook.com/90 terabytes. We're very happy for all of your likes. We also
That's
have
how we validate ourselves.
We also have a subreddit where we post all our videos of our shows, plus reviews for games. And if you want reviews, put them on there, and we'll talk about them on air, and maybe even invite you on the show if you wanted to. So that is reddit.com/r/90 terabytes. We would love your subscriptions there. Plus, you can also post all your reviews, as mentioned.
The input is actually, I would say, more value than the subscriptions.
Yes. But overall, thank you for listening to our show. We are here every Wednesday at 5 o'clock till 6 o'clock, and we'll probably be on air over even winter break.
Yes, we'll leave you with the outro, and then I guess one song, and then it should be Sports Beat. But is it Sports Beat? Yeah. I see one of them. Yeah.
Yes, the sports. We'll be talking about Pointer Sports.
And we're not even talking about that much sports.
Whoa!
Whoa!
Penn State. Coach is getting fired. It's all over the place.
Preview.
It's purely political.
Yep. So thank you for listening to 9 Terabytes of Alternative Gaming here on 90 FM, your only alternative.
Still for gaming.
Hey Taylor, do you have anything left you want to tell to our listeners?
We are not selling or distributing for commercial purpose any music you have heard on today's show.
All music, games, ideas, and content are the express copyright of their original and current owners.
We, 90 FM, the UW Board of Regents, and WWSP do not own anything you have heard on today's show.
Hey, this is Wes Platt.
This is Taylor.
And this is Q.
You're listening to 90 Terabytes of Alternative Gaming.
Only on WWSP, Stevens Point, 90 FM, your only alternative.
For gaming.